Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on KREM 2 News First at 4. I'm Tom Sherry.
Welcome, everyone. I'm Whitney Ward. We begin tonight in Idaho. Governor Brad Little announced earlier today COVID-19 is currently the state's leading cause of death. He also announced extensions to coronavirus restrictions all across the state. So our own Ian Smay has been tracking this throughout the day. He's in the newsroom tonight with more on today's press conference. Ian.
That's right, Whitney. Governor Brad Little announced today that Idaho will stay in Stage 2 of his reopening plan for the time being. Idaho first rolled back to Stage 2 on November 13th amid an ongoing surge in COVID-19 cases. But even with the extended restrictions, these guidelines are far less restrictive than the ones here in Washington. While both Idaho and Washington are halting any forward progress in reopening different industries, Idaho's restrictions are definitely less restrictive. In Idaho, people can still go to bars, nightclubs, and restaurants for in-person service. They just need to be seated. People can also still meet for indoor social gatherings, although they're capped at 10 people. Little also said Idaho may have to move to a crisis standard of care in hospitals. This means that hospitals would have to ration resources to patients based on survivability. Little painted a grim picture of what this could mean.
Here is what it means to you and your loved ones if we reach that point. If your son or daughter gets in a car accident, a hospital bed may not be available for your child, or your child will have to receive care in a repurposed conference room.
Little also says that Idahoans have to do more to combat the virus, but he stopped short of requiring masks in public. Several reporters asked the governor about why he hasn't launched a statewide mask mandate. Despite the virus being the state's leading cause of death and hospitals nearing capacity, Little said multiple times he didn't want to create a mandate statewide. One reason he gave was the fact that state law leaves the decisions to counties and health districts.
That's state law. It actually has been for 100 years in Idaho. Originally it was the counties. In the last 50 years, it's been the health districts.
He was also asked about protests at county health districts that have issued local mask mandates.
I will re-emphasize over and over, I want compliance. It is absolutely abhorrent what people are doing to some of these, whether it be a school board, whether it be a health district, whether it be a county or a city.
Now, Little did go on to say that he feels people are more likely to comply with mask orders if they are issued locally instead of from the capital in Boise. But Little did say that he wasn't ruling out issuing a mask mandate if hospitals reach their tipping point and people continue to disobey local orders. Whitney, Tom?
And here in Washington, Governor Jay Inslee says that the state is already at 80% ICU capacity. This after the governor announced on Tuesday that the existing restrictions and shutdowns will be extended for 3 more weeks.
In the meantime, the Spokane Regional Health District today is reporting another 213 COVID cases. There are 2 new deaths as well, bringing the total number of deaths here in the county to 297. In the meantime, we know 61% of people who have had the virus in Spokane County have recovered.
And breaking news for you now, FDA advisors have endorsed Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine, making this a major step in conquering the outbreak. The panel voted 17-4, saying that the shot appears safe and effective against the virus in people ages 16 and older. Millions of doses will be available for healthcare workers and nursing home residents. Widespread distribution won't be available for the general public, though, until late spring. A final vote from the FDA is expected within the coming days.
And in more breaking news tonight, any chance at an Apple Cup being rescheduled is now over. The University of Washington football game against Oregon this Saturday has now been canceled, and that means UW doesn't have enough scholarship players to play as coronavirus cases increase on the team. Washington, though, will still go to the Pac-12 championship if cleared to do so, or they may not be able to play at all. Regardless, though, the rivalry game between Washington and WSU cannot happen against the Cougs at any point now.
New at 4 o'clock, and it is sad news. A co-founder and publisher of Spokane Coeur d'Alene Living magazine has died after a battle with COVID-19. Emily Bozzi's colleagues said she was a pillar of Bozzi media and the Spokane community for more than 20 years. The magazine shared the news of Bozzi's passing on Facebook, saying she was proud to create a space that honored the many stories from Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, as well as the many businesses who became her clients. Bozzi's husband, Vincent Bozzi, who is the publisher at the magazine, is currently being hospitalized also with the virus. Emily Bozzi is survived by her husband and her son, Jordan.
You know, she's perhaps one of the most prominent people here in our community who has now gotten this virus, and of course, to have succumbed to it is just a horrible loss here in our community. I know you knew both of them very well.
Shocking news. I would run into them. They have done more in the last 20 years for the supporting the community of Spokane and all of the charitable events, and that's where I would run into them at these events, these charitable events. And she just was always the most joyful, healthy, optimistic person. Always had, both of them always have so many great things to say about the Spokane area. It is really tragic and a real loss for Spokane.
It's a big hole now that has been left across the board. Tom, thank you. And as we talk about weather, the other thing that we're tracking, of course, right now is a big change in the weather pattern, the snow that seems to be coming.
We do have snow on the way. We think it's going to fall just in time for your morning commute tomorrow. So we've kind of gotten lulled with no snow, but we're getting set up for a very wet weather pattern. Right now it's 34 degrees. Wind is out of the north-northeast at 8 miles per hour. You can see the rain already over on the west side of the state. And if you look at those darker shades of white right there, that kind of tracking from the Dalles up towards Wenatchee, that is light snow that is falling. And again, we expect that in the overnight hours, maybe after 3 a.m. Tonight. So snow early in the morning down to about 26 degrees. We'll look for more snow at times on your Friday with a daytime high of 36. I think that snow is going to linger longer into the day in northern Idaho and western Montana. Looking ahead to the weekend, again, I've got snow showers developing Saturday night and then snow at times on Sunday. And as I mentioned before, much of next week is going to be snow and rain. I'll check your 7-day forecast coming up in a few minutes.
We'll get ready for it, Tom. Thank you. Well, as this pandemic surges all across the country, pet adoptions, we know, are at an all-time high, but so are pet scams. Last week, we shared the story of a local woman who was grieving the death of her daughter and ended up being targeted in a puppy scam. Her name is Jeannie Dixon, and she thought she was buying a Newfoundland puppy from a breeder online. She ended up getting ripped off, though, and she lost more than $2,000 and never got the puppy. The story resonated with so many of you at home, and immediately after our story aired, multiple people offered to gift her a new puppy. Our own Mark Hanrahan was there over the weekend when a local breeder gave Jeannie a Newfoundland puppy.
I'm overwhelmed by the kindness of strangers and so grateful, very grateful.
Hear more from Jeannie and the local breeder who stepped up to help. The full story airs tonight right here on KREM 2 News at 6 o'clock.